Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Scrubs podcast. This podcast highlights the journeys, experiences, and insights of healthcare professionals, while also sharing advice and inspiration for students and those interested in the medical field. This is the third and final episode of our three-part series with Dr. Kollu. In the first episode, we explored her journey to become a hematologist and oncologist, what her role looks like, and a day in her life. In the second episode, we discussed the challenges she faced, lessons she has learned, and her work with Arogya Vidya, a consulting platform. And now, in the third episode, we will be focusing on Empower IMG and Dr. Kolu's advice for students aspiring to enter the medical field. I am Sanjana Malgredi, your host, and today I'm excited to be joined by Dr. Kolu. Dr. Kolu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Sanjana. Thank you again for the welcome. I'm so honored to be back for this third episode with you and your listeners. For those just joining in, I'm Vidya Kollu, a double board certified hematologist and medical oncologist, also a mother, an entrepreneur, and founder of Arogya Vidya and Empower IMG. I wear many hats, but at the core of it all, I'm someone who believes deeply in purpose, equity, and service. So, over the last few years, I've worked across the US. As an oncologist and as in the recent past 1 year as a locum tenens oncologist and built educational platforms for international medical graduates. And most importantly, I've grown through my own journey. So one that includes being an international medical graduate, a first generation immigrant physician, oncologist, and a mom. And today I'm excited to share about a project very close to my heart that is Empower IMG.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kolu. It's truly inspiring to hear about the many roles you balance and the passion you bring to everything you do. I know our listeners will really appreciate the perspective you bring, not only as a physician, but also as a mentor and entrepreneur. I'm especially excited to dive into Empower IMG today since it's such a meaningful initiative for international medical graduates. So, many listeners may be international medical graduates or interested in practicing in the US. Dr. Kolu has also created a LinkedIn community especially for IMGs or international medical graduates called Empower IMG. So, let's talk about how that helps and the advice you would give to aspiring IMG doctors. So, Dr. Kolu, can you share what Empower IMG is and what inspired you to start it?
Sure. So Empower IMG is a LinkedIn-based global support community for international medical graduates, especially the non-US based ones, navigating US residency, fellowship, and early career medicine. And honestly, it was born from my own lived experience. As an IMG from India, I remember feeling lost about 13 years ago when I was applying for residency. There was no roadmap. I didn't know who to turn to for guidance on personal statements, interviews, or even how to navigate the cultural expectations of medicine in the US. Even after I matched into residency, the challenges didn't end. And from visa constraints to lack of mentorship to sometimes feeling like I didn't belong at the table, there were constant hurdles. And yet, there were also moments of grace, like some mentors who extended a hand and some mentors who believed in me. That generosity stayed with me. And over the years, I have invested in myself with getting coached on various aspects going through major life transitions. So I created Empower IMG to pay it forward and use the skills that I have learned to help other international medical graduates and to have a space where no international medical graduate has to walk this path alone. So it started as a few posts on LinkedIn, then grow into like Zoom panels prior to the match season back in 2023 and peer mentorship groups, and now a thriving community of over 3,900 people strong, including all international medical graduates across all specialties.
That is so powerful, Dr. Kulu. I really appreciate how you turn your own challenges into a way of helping thousands of others who are going through the same journey. It's incredible to see how something that just started as a few LinkedIn posts has now grown into a global community with such a meaningful impact. I think what stands out most is how Empower IMG goes beyond academics. It's not only about exams or applications, but also about building confidence, leadership, and a sense of belonging. That's something every aspiring physician, IMG or not, can take inspiration from. So, based on leading from that, what are some common hurdles you see IMGs facing in securing residency or fellowships, and how does Empower IMG help address them?
So the hurdles are multifaceted. Some are systemic and some are individual based on the emotional load that you get into the application. The main hurdles being lack of US clinical experience, because most of the international medical graduates are trained in their respective countries and they don't have the exposure of doing rotations in the US healthcare system, unlike the medical students who graduate from, like the American medical graduates who graduate from schools here. And other hurdle being confusing visa pathways, and also the requirement for needing a visa to even train and work in the US is another hurdle by itself. And that's something, systemic, and not much control can be having by the individual, going through the process. And the pathways can be pretty confusing with J1, H1, and with the recent EAD and with all the political climate that we are getting to experience these days. And the other challenge being cultural disconnects during interviews, right? Like interviews are most about like getting to connect with within a short span of time, so that you can communicate what are the strengths and what kind of personality you have that is not seen on the CV. And sometimes there can be a cultural disconnect. What might be okay in their respective country culture might not be what would be optimal to appear confident, or to crack the interview successfully. And also there is limited mentorship and representation in the IMG community. It's like it's been at least the over the past few years things are changing, but people tend to gatekeep what they know, what has worked, instead of sharing that information and helping others. But it's getting better and better, even with opportunities for mentorship and like representing them. And there is always this fear of rejection and burnout from repeated failures, because you have similarly such a long journey. You have to take clear all your steps, and you have to uproot your social life from a place that you have all your family and friends to a totally foreign land with no social support, and dealing with all that fear of rejection and burnout from all that laborious process without much social support system. But the one I see most often is a challenge which is more internal, is the silence. For some reason, international medical graduates are often taught to stay quiet, to be grateful, to not take up space. It comes from a lot of cultural conditioning. And at Empower IMG, we kind of flip that script. We teach IMGs how to own their narrative, starting from writing their CVs, personal statement, and even preparing for interviews, to turn their journey into a strength and not a liability. And whatever limitations they're coming with, it can also be a strength, and they bring a different perspective, which is very important in the recent healthcare landscape. And we hosted workshops on like personal statement, interview skills, and LinkedIn networking, cold emailing programs, and articulating why, like your why of applying for residence in personal statements, and how to network authentically. And we also openly talk about imposter syndrome, what gets in the way of being your best self, and the cultural shame and family pressure, especially for women and first generation physicians. That's so much the case, as there is not much prior understanding on what to expect with the whole process and the time it takes. So here, our main aim is to support the international medical graduates applying for residency and fellowship, and share our experience having walked the path already and being at the other end, and just lending that supportive hand so that they can also cross the path, and they can be supportive to a lot of other future generation physicians. And because if you only focus on the CV and ignore the human, you burn out before you even match. And Empower IMG is about sustaining the whole person while supporting the mind, skill, and the soul with whatever work we have been doing on the community. And we run most of our works. There is a saying, like in democracy, right? It's by the IMGs, for the IMGs, and of the IMGs. And that's how it's been like running with the community on overcoming these challenges. So we bring a great deal of experience and perspective in addressing these. as there are a lot of other paid services which literally make money out of the plight of a lot of these bright graduates. And our aim is at least to empower them so that they know what they're doing is right, and to keep working at what moves the needle more than putting their effort on the wrong places. So
That's such an important point, Dr. Kolu. I like how Empower IMG focuses not just on the CV, but also on the person behind it. Addressing things like imposter syndrome and cultural pressures makes such a difference. Moving on, what top piece of advice would you give to an IMG working toward a match or early career in US medicine?
yeah, so before I give an advice to an IMG, this reminds me of experience that I had when I was, going through my US clinical experience doing an observership. And during my initial months, when I was doing these observerships, where I barely spoke, unless spoken to, because like culturally, you're taught not to, just open your mouth unless you really have something to say, and not like empty vessels make more noise and all that. And that was so ingrained. One day my preceptor doctor, like the senior doctor, asked me, oh, why are you so quiet? You clearly know your stuff. And I told him I didn't want to come off as arrogant or aggressive, as that is how you're labeled back home if you talk, speak your mind out. So he smiled and said, confidence isn't arrogance. You belong here and you just need to believe it first. So that moment was the initial catalyst in changing some of the cultural beliefs, and that changed everything. So here's my advice. So stop waiting to feel ready or perfect. Uh, just speak and show up, like, with whatever at that time, because that's the best information you could possibly have given the resources and everything that you have. So stop feeling, waiting to feel ready or perfect. And the other one would be to also considering that your journey as an IMG is not your weakness, it's your strength. Because in overcoming some of those challenges, being an IMG, it without even knowing it, improves your strength in dealing some current kind of things, and brings a better personality to the application. And it's important to find your tribe, whether it's Empower IMG or someone who sees your potential when you by yourself can't. And medicine in the United States needs your voice, your perspective, and your grit, because you getting through medical school is not easy, right? Like with the acceptance rate of like 1 to 2%, and you have already gone through medical school, and as much as the imposter in you makes you think, oh, who are you to move on to the better things in life, and like let it be pursuing training in the US or anywhere. um, it's important to remember the value you bring to the healthcare system, and to remember that the medicine in the US needs your voice, your perspective, and your grit. So that's what I would tell.
Wow, that's such a powerful story, Dr. Kolu. I think the reminder that confidence isn't arrogance is something so many students need to hear. And I just want to say thank you again for telling us about Empower IMG. It's like an organization that can help many people. So if anyone there is watching, definitely resort to this organization. To wrap up, I want to shift toward advice. A lot of our listeners are students or aspiring healthcare professionals who could really use your value and your spirit. A lot of our listeners are people who are interested in pursuing a career in the medical field. So, based on that, what advice would you give to someone considering oncology or any healthcare profession?
Yeah, and oncology, or in general medicine, isn't just about the medicine or the cancer. It's about presence, being fully there for someone when they're at their most vulnerable state. If you're someone who finds meaning in human connection, who wants to blend science with soul, and who isn't afraid to walk into emotionally hard spaces and lifelong learning, this field is for you. And for healthcare in general, let your why lead the way. Medicine can be long and exhausting if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, because of some external pressures. But if you lead with purpose, it becomes a calling, not just a career.
That's beautifully said, Dr. Kul. I really like how you describe oncology as blending science with the soul. It makes the human side of medicine so clear. So, our next question is, what are the most important skills you think medical students should start developing early on?
That's a great question, and I wish I knew this as like my younger self. That these were the important skills. So that would be three skills stand out for that. One is communication. Learn to explain complex things simply, and the main part of communication is listening with full attention. So that would be an important, most needed skill. And the second one being adaptability. Medicine and life will never go as planned. So it's important to pivot gracefully. So that would be the second important skill. And the other one, which is mostly over ruled for intelligence and like subject matters, is the emotional intelligence. So read the room, understand suffering, and be okay with not having all the answers. And as long as you know where to find the answers, we don't need to be knowing all the answers, and embracing the humanness of what you bring to the table, right? So these don't show up on your step one score, but they will carry out through your entire career. And I would also say, if there is another important skill which most schools and colleges don't teach, but it's important for every future physician, is also getting yourself educated financially, because that would be the key to practice medicine on your terms, as that financial education goes a long way in planning your career successfully, without the pressure of having to work for a paycheck. So
Those are such valuable points, Dr. Kolu. It's a great reminder that the qualities that carry you far in medicine aren't always the ones tested on exams. So, moving on, how do you think the field of oncology is changing, and what should future doctors be ready for?
So we are kind of in a renaissance era in oncology, from immunotherapy to personalized targeted molecular testing and therapies, AI in diagnostics, and telehealth breaking barriers. Everything is evolving, and we are at the best time of being in oncology, where we are changing things from like non-curable to cure in most of the advanced cancers. But here's what won't change. Patient will always need a human being, not just a protocol. And cultural humility will be more important than ever in a globalized world, no matter how divided the political opinions might be. And learning will never stop. So build your curiosity muscle now. And the future of oncology is not just about caring. It's not about curing. It's not just about curing. It's about caring deeply and wisely. So yeah.
That's such an inspiring perspective, Dr. Kolu. I love how you emphasize that no matter how advanced medicine gets, the human connection and curiosity will always be at the heart of the care. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Dr. Kolu, thank you so much for sharing your story, your insight into oncology, and the advice that so many future medical professionals will benefit from. It's been an honor having you, and we're all grateful for the insight and inspiration you shared with us today. Is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Sanjana, for hosting such a thoughtful and inspiring podcast. It's been such a joy to share my story, and more importantly, to speak directly to the next generation of healers, trailblazers, and community builders. To everyone listening, you may be unsure now, you may feel behind, but trust me, your path is unfolding just as it should. Keep walking one step at a time and one day at a time, as I always tell my patients. Keep asking and keep showing up for the version of yourself you're becoming. And if you ever feel like you're walking this path alone, being an international medical graduate with a non US visa, requiring visa, Empower IMG is here for you. You're already part of a global community that believes in your potential. Let's rise together.